Namaste sir.
Namaste.
My name is Saksham Singh and I'm a second year law student at Law Center 2, Faculty of Law. So sir, I'm currently reading your first book and there you have talked about obliteration of these particular colonial constructs, like right and left, and these are volatile terms, right? So my question is, there you have also offered a solution at the end, and that is like one solution is that altogether replacement of these terms on indie basis, right? And the second solution was that let these terms stay, but their definitions have to be on indie terms, right? So my question right now is that there are manufactured faultlines and there are pre-existing faultlines.
Right.
So identification and fixation of both these faultlines, does this process have to be before these two solutions, before either of these two solutions which have been offered by you, or this process may even be offered after such thing, or after such identification and fixation.
Right.
So does this process have to be before or after? And
I get your question.
Just
Please,
one last thing,
go
sir. That is that whether this process takes place before or after. My submission or my final thing, what I want to say is that what would be an ideal situation where we would be as a civilization free of all the influence around us in both of these situations.
I'll answer the second question first because quite a few people have misunderstood that part of the book. Maybe I'll take the blame for it for not being as clear. If you look at the conclusion of the first section of the book, किसी के पास पहला पुस्तक है? Just open the conclusion to the first section and just give it to me for a moment. Let me just read it out. So allow me to just read out this portion from the end of the first section. This is on pages 144 and 145. Most people from the science stream may not get the true import of this because of their lack of exposure to humanities. But I'm assuming that we are predominantly in a room of people who have come from the humanities background, and I'm 100% sure you guys will relate to it better. From the discussion undertaken in this section, a few questions may arise. For instance, how practical is the decolonial option? After all, if coloniality is omnipresent by design and has resulted in a globalized and heavily integrated world that places the West, within brackets the global North, at the top, and the rest at the bottom as the global South, how does decoloniality hope to upset the established global order? Here I'm drawing from the Joker's lines, from the Dark Knight. So what is decoloniality's vision of the future, assuming it has the wherewithal to achieve its goals? So after asking these questions, here's what I'm saying. First, in order to answer these questions, it may help to understand that 500 years is nothing from the standpoint of human history. And therefore, there is no reason to assume that the history of the last 5 centuries shall remain the history even for the next 100 years. After all, the West is not what it was even half a century ago. Second, while different commentators and authorities on the subject of decoloniality may have differing views, from what I've understood, it seems to me that the goal is to regain the space for indigenities to breathe, which allows them to compete in the supposedly free market of ideas by letting them tell their own stories in their own languages. Some believe the world has changed forever by virtue of European colonialism and there is no going back to pre-colonial ways of life, which makes indigenous societies eternal or perpetual victims. However, ever since the offshoots of coloniality, namely globalization and unconscientious mercantilism, have begun to expose the utterly destructive impact of coloniality on nature, placing the world in a crisis, the cautious hope is that the world will begin its quest for alternatives that respect nature as being central to civilization, as opposed to relegating it to the category of a mere resource. This endeavor could possibly bring the world to the doorstep of indigenous knowledge systems, which could in turn lead to the resurgence of relational association with nature, which is perhaps the intended outcome of decoloniality. Now, hold on for this. In other words, it is this window of global introspection on the treatment of nature that is capable of enabling the reinscription of indigenities in their respective spheres of influence, thereby exposing the provincial validity of Europeanism and its false claim of universalism. To be clear, while decoloniality may not result in the extinction of Europeanism, it may certainly limit Europeanism to the borders of its origin, which is Europe, and allow indigenities to re-exist, albeit in a hybrid form. This could have implications for Europeanism even within Europe in the sense that it may introspect and revisit its own pre-Christian past, which could re-establish the centrality of nature in the mothership of Christian dualism. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So what am I trying to say here? You see, when you speak of decoloniality, you can't say, let's wipe out the influence of English altogether. Let's wipe out the influence of the West altogether. Agar aap karna bhi chahe, it's not possible. Because you're all connected. What part of your life are you going to be able to give up? I don't think that's the intention here. Because that is going to result in self-imposed isolationism. You will have to be the Japan of the pre-Meiji period, where there is absolutely no interaction with the rest of the world. Or even China for that matter, which said, let's shut all our borders. Not possible. China has not been able to succeed, even with its kind of governance structure, from, let's say, the influence of the rest of the world percolating into China. Even Russia hasn't been able to do it, right? So what are you looking at? You are looking at a hybrid model, which is, if it is 70-30 today, wherein 30% or less is what is the space for ideas which are native or which are indigenous in nature, can we alter that equation a bit? Practically, iska matlab kya hai? In legal education, Hindu legal jurisprudence is relegated only to personal laws. It never features in your education on jurisprudence, on political science, on moral theories, on contractual jurisprudence, on criminal jurisprudence. It's all ornamental. It's like the dress you choose to wear on a festive occasion. That's it. Beyond that, it has no value. You don't have the guts to wear it to your office spaces. Right? The hope is that in education and in other spheres, you improve and increase the indigenous component. And if it has the strength to survive in the contemporary world, then it is for the idea to survive. You can't constantly protect it. If it has the ability to survive, it will. If it does not, unfortunately, it is the survivor of the fittest. There's nothing that you can do about it. But the hope is that these voices which are resistive in nature also get an audience. And let the audience decide what they want. One of the reasons I crafted the paragraph in this particular fashion is, I felt that the world would have drawn a few important lessons after the bloody pandemic. With respect to development, with respect to prosperity, with respect to nature, so on and so forth. And since the Western model of growth is built on destruction of nature, they will have to revisit it, but since they don't have the tools to re-examine, they will have to come to native societies to understand how this works. Which is why, when they speak of climate change, when they speak of handling the climate crisis, their leading researchers are forced to go back to hunter-gatherer communities which still survive. Or let's say communities which have managed to keep their ecosystems alive as to how did they do this? What are we doing wrong? And the moment they do that, they will have to realize that not only do you have to protect their way of life, you will also have to protect their belief system, because they go hand in hand for these communities, which is exactly why the tribal way of life and tribal beliefs are going to be connected. That is the case for most pre-colonial societies. So the hope is that climate change will induce some sense and revisit most notions. Take it from me, if your economic model changes, your cultural model will also change. Next. Because economics and culture don't operate in silos, they influence each other.